great, and it's been a lot of work in a year on both sides. We've been working behind the scenes with your representatives from the schools on a pretty regular basis. So we meet almost every 2 weeks, if not more sometimes. So they've been kind of involved in this process over time. So thank you for your comment, because we have really tried to make sure that we're integrating with the schools on this. The other cool thing, what you just mentioned, is I think people forget how close we are to the WMATA garage. So it feels far away today, but once this is a real street grid that continues through, and it will be not only a 5-minute walk, but a really attractive 5-minute walk. When you guys have evening events, weekends events, big festivals, whatever, there's this 1,200 space parking garage that's kind of this overflow parking that doesn't get as much use today as it needs. And so it really will start feeling like one big space, whether you're in the county or the city. This whole big 800-foot long open space will really hang together.
Sorry, I'm asking all the questions. And this is one you may not really know yet, because I'm sure it depends on the other projects. But just thinking about sort of traffic leaving the metro, is Commons Drive each way is just one lane, right?
Yeah.
So we don't expect, I'm just thinking, I know the way Haycock jams up at rush hour. Do we think a lot of people are going to try and use that to get out, or have you guys given much thought to that whole traffic pattern?
Yeah, we have. So Commons it's one lane in each direction. It is 20 feet wide. So it allows for bike lanes. It allows for cars to get around other cars that are parking. It will be a road where you're expected to drive 20 miles per hour, so you're going to be going slow on it. Although, during rush hour, you're not going much faster here anyway. But the most efficient design of a street is a one-lane road in each direction. You get more cars through that than you do on a two-lane road, because cars start, I shouldn't say that. The second lane of a two-lane road is less efficient than the first, because cars start stacking away from each other. So we will handle a good amount of traffic on this street heading towards the metro, or as a way to get around. So for example, when you're coming down Haycock, if you live in kind of the McLean area and you're trying to go to Tyson's, your ability to go onto this street and make a right turn onto 7 and avoid this intersection altogether, it's part of what helps us start making this a better functioning intersection. So we've been working with, we have the same traffic consultants working on this project are working with us on the WMATA project as well, and we're kind of coordinating how do we best spread the cars out amongst the grid of streets so that we can try to solve this issue, which we know is a problem.
Could you also, sort of picking up on Shannon's, Ms. Litton's question, sort of Mustang Alley is a major a major ingress for us, obviously, for our buses and everything else. How do you see that, Commons Drive crossing Mustang Alley? Do you see it as a stop sign?
Stop signs, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we envision this being stop signs here, with the idea that we're trying to keep it as a 20 mile per hour zone and make it more safe for everybody. And then, as you said, your buses will be stacking just like you had designed them in this general zone. We will be sharing this street to get access to the project during, all hours of the day, but it will kind of be do not enter signs for our folks during the school drop-off pickup times.
Oh, and you may want to mention also the turnaround drop-off area.
Oh, right. So you're now starting to see this. This is the high school plaza as designed. We've been working with your superintendent on this idea of a turnaround drop-off for kids so that the kids aren't being dropped off within the parking lot. They're getting dropped off right here and being able to walk directly across to the high school as well. And that would come with our construction when we build our project.
So two questions, one for Dr. Noonan. How many crossing guards are we thinking about in this project? And then second question, I know it's a separate work stream, but is there any notion yet of what the $15-ish million grant for transportation improvements is going to be doing here?
Sure. Do you want me to hit the transportation first? So we do have a budget already and an agreement with MVTA about where the money is being spent. So that money is going to fund the traffic lights and crossings at all these intersections. So improvements to this intersection to make it more pedestrian friendly, putting in an intersection traffic light here with a crossing, pedestrian crossing, as well as in these two locations. It will be all the shared use path and streetscape and undergrounding of utilities along Route 7 and Haycock, which that work, if you've been out there, you've already seen is under construction, the undergrounding. So it's about creating that pedestrian and bike-friendly environment along the entire edge of the property. That's where that money is being used, all in public land. Oops, sorry.
Well, that's good. And to your first question about crossing guards, I think that's a continued conversation that we're going to have to have. Currently, with the construction that's going on and everything else, what we have been using is utilizing our school resource officer, Clark Gagnon, has been very, very helpful for us to get students in and out, parents in and out through Kiss and Ride and the like. We also have our Securitas team. There are 4 Securitas members that are on the site now at the middle and the high school who also help us with traffic and traffic flow. And then we have 1 security specialist at the high school who also helps us. As this continues to develop and we look at sort of how traffic's going to be coming in and leaving, to be perfectly frank, I actually think it's going to be a more efficient entrance and exit from our buildings than we currently have, which actually makes it an easier, it'll be a little easier, I think, operationally to manage. So my hope is that we'll be able to do it with the staff that we have, but we will continue to work with Chief Gavin and the police department to make sure that we have good flow through there. And Clark Gagnon has been a really great partner in this, talking with him about how traffic can flow as well.
Thanks. So building on that one, actually, Dr. Noonan, this is perhaps for you, but also then I'm going to be looking at Vanna here and get that going. Safe routes to school, sort of both like currently and also as we're moving into the construction phase for the project here after the high school's done. How are we doing on sort of trying to coordinate a bit of that to make it sort of more obvious to the students which way we want them to go?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. There are 2 things that we've been looking at. Well, first of all, let me just say that those coordination meetings that we've been having with EYA and the team, as well as our team every 2 weeks, has been really useful as we begin to think about what it's going to look like. There are 2 significant areas that we're paying attention to over the course of the construction phase, and that is, one is going to be along Mustang Alley, the other is going to be along Route 7. There's nothing really that's going to be able to happen on the site while it's under construction. However, post-construction, as Evan indicated, there are going to be some really nice walking areas, not only along Route 7, but there'll also be bike lanes and walking along Mustang Alley. But as I thought about the change that they made because of the grade between A2 and D2 and that crossing at Haycock, that seems like a really reasonable way and safe for students to be able to walk to school. Biking's a little different. I think biking, we would ask kids to go along Mustang Alley, but certainly walking to school up that staircase across Street A down into the site, I think would be a really safe route. So we're continuing to look at what are the best routes as this develops, but I will say during the development phase, it will be right along Route 7 and it will be along Mustang Alley will be the 2 safest ways to walk.
Sort of building on that in the placemaking idea, Evan, one thing that occurs to me is whether there's been any thought, for TJ, for Thomas Jefferson Elementary, there's actually a tiger trail with signs and things. The question is, like, could there be footprints or some sort of placemaking artwork that's built into the project to sort of like, hey, walk here kind of a thing, as a thought. And
There'd be Mustang hooves, though.
Well, yeah, or husky prints. I mean, what do you?
Or husky prints.
But,
Husky prints on
gonna have
Mustang.
There you go. There you go.
We can compromise, folks.
Or they alternate. The staircase that you've got there coming up now, the one that Dr. Noonan, you were just talking about, how does this work with ADA compliance for folks? Are they going to be coming into, are there elevators in the design somewhere?
Thank you.
Do you want me to go back to the plan?
Yeah, why don't we go to the image, the perspective that shows that corner.
Right from the A2.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to show it.
Hold on. Sorry. It's going to take a second. Whoop.
Perfect.
There you go.
So the idea is if you're coming off Haycock, there'd be this staircase going up that would be kind of outside pulled proud, and then you'd have this, pedestrian walkway going over between the garage and the building, getting you over to Route 7. I'm sorry, to the school. And then you would also have, it's not shown here, but a pedestrian path going through the garage to the elevator that's within the garage. You can go up that elevator 2 levels and come out on the other side. So you'd have either a handicap accessible route through the garage, or you'd have the staircase. And obviously, the majority of people will use the staircase, but there'll be the second route as well.
and the wayfinding for that would be detailed as well. So,
Yeah.
so that you knew where to go if you're looking for the elevator.
Right.
Great. And then, I don't know how many slides earlier it is, but there is a presentation where you've got the massing and it's got the heights for the Phase 2 buildings, and I'm sort of trying to get a sense of where
So-
that's going, especially the office Phase 2
Yeah.
building right up next to
So
Henderson.
these are ghosted in at 10 stories. That's what you're seeing there. The SEE allows us to go to 15 stories. So there's nothing, what I'd say is this, is I wouldn't, both of these buildings will be back in front of you for an SE SP approval for those two buildings. And we don't know exactly how tall they'll be, whether if we get, lucky and get a big office tenant and fills the whole thing, it could be a 15-story building. It could be a 10-story building, could be an 8-story building. So we're just ghosting it in to show you where they're going to be, but we'll come back to all of you when the time comes for those two buildings. They won't be part of this application.
Ghosted in the office.
Oh, yeah. So the first office building, we ghosted in an extra 2 levels just in case. We have some interesting office tenants we've been talking to. And so, we know the city wants as much commercial tax revenue as possible. We might be able to increase the height of that building.
But we also wanted you to understand where we're currently designed now, which
Yeah,
is a
which is
7
here.
stories. Yeah.
It's 7.
Yeah. Okay. I think, unfortunately, with that, we probably should head over to the council. We're supposed to be there in 15 minutes. But we'll be back. We'll do this again. So our goal is to be back here in December for another more detailed presentation. And then, obviously, we'll be submitting in January, and we'll be in front of you a number of times. And feel free, if you have other comments after this, please, either through Carly or directly to us, feel free to let us know if you have any questions or comments.
And I'll just add, there's 2 town halls also for boards and commissions, the public, if you guys want to come to those also. The first one's tomorrow night, and then the second one's December 12th.
Great. And I also want to thank Carly Opry from the city for being here tonight as well. Thank you. And as somebody who was on the selection committee all the way through now, I just want to say thank you for this great project. It has really stayed consistently great and has gotten even better over time. So I'm just really so excited as a community member to be there and have my kids walking to school through this great project. So thank you. All right, we'll move on to next section of our agenda, which is our public comments and requests, section 3.01. In accordance with School Board Bylaw 2.30, the time for each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Additional written statements may be submitted to the clerk for dissemination of board members and for the record. We have one public comment tonight, Dr. Gordon Thies.
Do I get the hot seat? Hang on 1 second. So Gordon Thies, 802 Ridge Place. I don't get to come talk to you guys much, but tonight I wanted to talk really briefly about the high school name, which is building as a passion of mine. There once was a time when the city had schools named James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, George Mason Junior and senior high schools. Lately, we've named our schools after prominent Falls Church citizens like Jesse Thackeray and Mary Ellen Henderson. Now you should think about having a new name for our new high school building. There are many negative reasons we could list as to why George Mason, the individual, shouldn't be the namesake of our high school. But I'd rather focus on why someone else should be honored with this name. Our new high school, which will represent our school for our city for 50 years, as they were just talking, should be named after someone with ties to Falls Church, like Thackeray and Henderson. It should be someone we're proud to have represent us. We needn't go the way of George Mason University and have a memorial walk or a history corner to explain away our name. We've got plenty of people who have made Falls Church great. So if you want a suggestion, a group of us were brainstorming on this, and we thought it'd be good to conserve the initials, G and M. So we did a Google search, and we found very few individuals with G and M as their names. Gregor Mendel was great, but he doesn't have any ties to Falls Church unless somebody starts growing hydroponic peas in the high school lobby. Then a friend who's well-versed in Falls Church women's history, suggested